G'day, I am Debbie O'Shea, and this is the Crescendo Music Education Podcast. This podcast is being recorded on the lands of the Turrbal people. I acknowledge them as the traditional owners of the land and pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. They were the first music makers on this land. In this episode of the Crescendo Music Education Podcast, I talked to Leanna O'Brien, energetic, lovely music educator from the other side of the world. Oh gosh, isn't it great that we can hear these gems of wisdom from all over the world? I just love it. So Leanna is very much into movement. Her business, Soaring Scarves, it's about scarves, but it's not just about scarves. It's about all movement and using manipulatives. Hey, someone after my own heart. I love it. Keeping kids engaged. I think you will get a lot of value out of listening to this part one of Leanna O'Brien. And I would like to welcome to the Crescendo Music Education Podcast, Leanna O'Brien. Hello, Leanna.
Hey, Debbie, it's so nice to be here.
It seems so odd that it's so dark here and it's like early morning, but it's a very rainy, miserable day today. So it's a bit dark.
Perfect day for a cup of tea.
Oh, yes. Tea, coffee, and recording podcasts.
Perfect.
Okay, now I'm going to start out the way I like to start out in case the world doesn't know you or the people listening. I'm going to read a little short bio and then we're going to hear all the great things that you've got to offer my fabulous listeners.
Wonderful.
Okay, here we go. Meet Leanna O'Brien. Actually, I love that start. I'm going to change my bios to go meet Debbie O'Shea. I love it. Okay, sorry. I will try to not digress. Meet Leanna O'Brien, a curriculum designer and professional development expert dedicated to bringing music to life in the classroom. With lessons used in over 500 schools, she specialises in integrating meaningful movement, scarf dancing, engaging movement breaks, and activities that teach tempo, texture, pitch, dynamics, and more. Passionate about helping teachers feel confident, Leanna believes in teaching students through movement, ensuring they truly experience the fundamentals of music. Her curriculum, built on storytelling and hands-on learning, transforms classrooms into engaging spaces where behaviour management improves, understanding deepens, and fun thrives. As the founder of the Soaring Scarves Academy, she empowers educators to seamlessly infuse music and movement into their teaching, creating vibrant, effective classrooms where students engage, remember, and grow. Ta-da! What a great bio. I love it. And what music teacher is not saying, yeah, I want that. Yeah, I want that. All right. So listening to that bio, what would you like to add to that little description of what you do?
Well, I think one thing I'd love to add is just how much more in depth I've gotten into really doing professional developments made by this music educator, by music educators, specifically for music educators. In the last few years of teaching, I really started to become very frustrated when I would be put into professional development sessions done by my school that had absolutely no relevancy to me. I was in math professional developments and all this other kind of stuff. And I just kept on questioning, well, where is the stuff for me to continue as a learner? And so it's so wonderful being on podcasts like this and like other creators. I know both of us have been on Bryson's Music Summit. So fun. I actually just had the absolutely amazing pleasure of being at the NAM conference, the National Association of Music Marketers, and that happens in California. And that was definitely one of the biggest professional development sessions I've ever done. I was so incredibly honored to be selected for that. And it's just making me see that I love teaching little kids, but how important and how powerful it is to teach other music educators and advocate for them and allow them to advocate for themselves. And just this has been like a total whirlwind just these last couple months, but it's been really, really fantastic.
It's so important to teach the teachers, isn't it? Because your reach, it's a ripple effect. It's those people that you reach more children. And
Yes.
it's so important that
Especially for music educators, we're islands. We are so oftentimes the only teacher that does what we do. And we never feel like we have the support under us to even have the ability to grow as constant learners.
mm-hmm, I I hear you. I'm there too. Yes. So I think we need more of us, don't we?
I agree.
So how many people at the now NAM, just tell me what's NAM again. Sorry, the
NAM is the National Association of Music Marketers, but basically it's this 3 day, no, excuse me, not 3 day, a 5 day conference that happens twice a year, once in LA. And then I want to say the second one changes. I might be wrong about that. But it happens twice a year and it brings music, either producers, creators, educators from all over the world. And I'm talking, yes, I met educators from Australia. I met educators from the UK. But it's a massive conference that takes place in Anaheim, California, at the biggest conference center in California. It was really incredible. My husband was like, just see, you want to teach more teachers, put in your name and a little bit of what you do and see if they reach back. And that was last year, and they did. It was incredible to be asked to go and do that. Yeah, that was this past January.
oh, lovely. Oh, I love the sound of that. That sounds
Yeah.
great. Congratulations.
Thank you. No, it's so great to like, I've been going to this conference since I was in college. So being able to speak at it was pretty amazing.
Oh, wonderful. All right. Can we talk about gratitude? I like to talk about gratitude with all of my guests because I think that's important for you,
Mhm.
to think about you and your self-concept and who you are. And it sends an important message to everybody to stop and smell the roses for a moment and just think about all of the things that you're grateful for. So
Oh, there we
I'd like you to have a chat about that.
I I absolutely love that. I think gratitude is one of the like best ways to stop and actually take a look at where you're going in life and where you've been. And one of the things I am definitely most grateful for is the journey that I've been on to discover who I am as an educator and to know that I am by no way, shape, or form done growing in this profession. But I'm so grateful for all of my stumbles from those first couple of years that, you look back and you just shudder at, well, why would I think that me just playing a classical piece of music would immediately engage my students? Why would I think like that as this baby educator? But no, yes, definitely just this journey that I've taken to stumble and come out on this other side with this concrete knowledge of my biggest goals when I teach, and how to prevent behavior instead of managing behavior, and how to ensure that my students are going to have this experience with music instead of a passive learning time, how to see my students as these beautiful, wonderful little individuals who I just want to be able to now, at the end of the day, give the gift of an independency when it comes to music and literature, so that wherever they go after me, they're going to have the skills they need to take on any sort of musical challenge that they want to take on.
That is wonderful. And speaking as somebody who's even further down their journey than you are, you never, ever stop learning and developing and growing and doing better. And I've often said, and lots of people will tell you that if you decide you know everything, then you need to get out of teaching. So I have run across a couple of people in my career who go, their whole attitude is like, I know it all. Well, they're not going to be good teachers. You've got to keep learning, haven't you? Um, and that journey to where you are now, helping the individuals on their journey, that is wonderful. I love it.
Thank you, Debbie.
All right, I want to talk about movement. All right, so all of the people that are having a listen to this podcast, I'm guessing that they're sort of thinking, okay, what sort of thing does she do? Like movement seems to be coming out in your bio. I think we all know that kids, to be truly engaged, their body has to be engaged, doesn't it? So why do you feel it's important to have these music elements in the music lessons? And what do you think is stopping people doing it?
Mm-hmm. Oh, yes. No, 100%. These are my favorite things to talk about because at the end of the day, any musician will look at each other. And the second that I say dynamics, second I say, articulation, tempo, texture, a musician's mind will immediately have the experiences required to go, oh, well, I know what this is. But when we're teaching it, we're teaching vocabulary. A vocabulary is something so abstract that until we give our students a fundamental core experience with these abstract concepts, then just teaching the vocabulary will never be enough for a student to have the emotional experience to actually connect what that means. And I think that's one of the biggest things that I found with movement. It's not only going to engage my learners more, it's not only going to help me prevent behaviors instead of managing them. It's not only going to get my students more ingrained in what the concepts are, but it's going to introduce them without me having to even use the vocabulary once. I don't teach based on here's the vocabulary, now here's what it means. I teach based on here's the experience. A lot of times I do that through scarf dances. And what I love is it's a way to get my students up and engaging and moving to the music that I want them to learn anyway, so that I can teach them about the composers that I want to teach about. But it also gives their bodies the experience where if we're small and we're tiptoeing at the beginning of In the Hall of the Mountain King by Edvard Grieg, then they can feel that. And then as the song goes, it completely changes. Suddenly they're running in place and their bodies are big and their movements are big because it's forte and it's the tempo is fast. And having that concrete feeling and then being able to then, okay, now I can talk about tempo. Now I can talk about dynamics because now they're engaged with it. And the same thing with composers. Now, if I play the song, does anybody know this? Oh, miss, I know that. Oh, look, we can go da 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 da. They'll be humming it. They'll be singing it. They're engaged with it. They know what I'm talking about. And that makes me go, well, then let's talk about who made it. And they care. And they care. Before, if I just put it on and expected them to have an experience with just a piece of music, they're not at that learning stage. They need to move to it. And students spend, I think the new statistic was 63% of their day sitting, 63% of their day where they cannot move. And it's so easy. It's not, well, you say easy. It's such a connection to music where to teach that through movement is just so effective. And to the teachers who just feel like it just feels so they need to have the certain training, right? Well, I can't do that yet. I haven't been trained, right? No, well, I don't, or they just feel lost and don't know how to bring it in. Any form of movement in your classroom, any form, if it's the games, if it's a scarf dance, if it's a song where they're also connecting their bodies to it, they're going to be so much more engaged and have a deeper connection so that it's a learning experience. And I'd say to those teachers that it's just so important just to start in any way, in the smallest ways possible. One of my favorite movement breaks that I bring out anytime that I feel like, maybe my students are starting to spiral is just these two hand signs. If I put my hands like this to show the hand sign for standing up, and then go to the hand sign for sitting down. and just seeing who's focused, who's engaged. And if I'm starting to lose my students because I'm talking too much, then just giving also myself that reminder, you've been talking too long, engage with your students.
Oh, okay. There's so much gold in that. So you're describing basically just a good pedagogical sequence, aren't you? That's the way you should teach anything. Children should feel and hear before they are introduced to the symbol or the term. That's good. I'm a Kodai inspired teacher. So
Yes.
that's just good pedagogy of anything.
Yes.
You don't, if you're teaching a mathematical concept, you don't start with the symbol or the term. You do all of the understanding first. And in music, feeling is really important. You would never teach the beat without doing activities where they're moving on the
Mm-hmm.
beat, would you? So it's just an extension of good pedagogy, but we can't forget as they get older, you still,
Yes.
kids still need it. I think teachers are more confident doing it with 4-year-olds than they
Mm-hmm.
are doing it with 11-year-olds, but I can tell you the 11-year-olds need it too, don't they?
Yes, it might need to look a little different, right? It might need to look like, well, you can't baby it. We can't make it cutesy. My middle schoolers hate when I make it cutesy, but that doesn't mean that they can't move. They always need the ability to move, even if they don't know they need it.
Yes. So it just makes so much sense. Now, let's go back to the hand signs you talked about. So if you're not watching this on YouTube, you can pop into my YouTube channel and have a look. So those two hand signs you did, let's describe them for the audio people. And also, did you make them up or are they like part of your official sign language for deaf
Yep,
people?
they're just the American Sign Language, that the American Sign Language, so ASL, and it is, if you just Google this hand sign for standing up, you take your left hand and you make it flat. You take your right hand and you point it downwards as if you're pointing to the floor, but instead of one finger, using two fingers, and then you stand up now, your little hand person on top of this little podium. And that is the hand sign for stand up. The hand sign for sit down is left hand with two fingers extended out as if you're pointing to the right. Your right hand now, still two fingers up in the air, and you make a sitting motion as if your right hand is going over and across the left hand to show sit and then stand.
Okay, that's good. We should check that up, my Australian listeners. Let's check out what that is in Auslan because we have a different standard sign language. I think there's lots of crossover,
Mm-hmm.
but I think that wherever you're teaching, you could just check out whatever system is used by your hearing impaired people because that's a great idea. I mean, many of us develop our own little sign language. Like, one of mine is I just go, in other words, those people just listening, I'm just pointing to the ground and making a circle in front of me on the ground. I do that once, everyone just pops up and stands in a circle, like duh. But I hadn't thought of stand and sit. Like that makes sense. Great.
So Debbie, it's so very obvious that we're so used to teaching from looking at looking at our students. Oh, thank you for the reminder that we are on a podcast.
Oh no, and you should, if you're listening, you should go in and see Leanna's bright, happy face. Yeah, and a nice background, this guitar and all that. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
Okay. I'm digressing a bit here, aren't I? All right, let's look. I love you in the Hall of the Mountain King example. That's great. So let's have a look at some ways movement can reinforce music concepts, obviously listening, creating, and specific vocab. Um, just give some little practical tips so that people who are listening, and I should also say, if you're driving your car or you're on the treadmill, it's okay. There are show notes and there will be a blog post with um, the whole transcript
Mhm.
and any links you talk about. So don't worry about writing it down. It will be recorded for you. So let's get on to some of your movement ideas.
So what I find is building your routine and your structure around having multiple movement breaks throughout. Again, I'm somebody who, it's very clear, I can talk. and I can talk and I can talk. And that's true also with my teaching. So, what I find is building my routine and my structure around concrete, I stop talking to get them up. Is really helpful for me. So my routine may look like generally, and we're talking this from K through fifth grade. When I get to fifth grade through eighth grade, I generally have more independent moments because my students are then at that point starting to have their own identity as a musician and they are interested in different things. So I do allow a little bit more of a creative expression when it comes to my middle schoolers, still guided, but definitely some more independence. When it comes to kindergarten now through fifth grade, I have my structure where they come into a scarf dance. Every single one of my lessons begins with a scarf dance without any talking beforehand. And what I love about that is I'm not only able to begin by introducing them to a new classical piece or a modern one, so that later on I can talk about the composer, but I'm immediately giving them an experience on what I want to teach, right? So if I want to talk about, let's see, tempo. A good one is Rimsky-Korsakov's Flight of the Bumblebee. Right? It's so fast, and it's also a great way to talk about some articulation, right? There's two parts in there where it's very clearly staccato, is kind of the overall feel of the part of the song. And then the next section, it has a more legato feel to it. So it's a great also comparison right there. And again, if I want to talk about articulation, well, I'm going to choose a song more like that to then again have my students experience it and have that be the first thing that happens in my class. And I do that every single day. From there, we'll go on to what I call like my main chunk, which is going to be some sort of review on what I want to teach. And that's where I get a little bit more of some visual stimulus for my students and still some tactile. So a lot of stuff with the smart board, my students coming up to the board and dragging and dropping things that we've previously talked about. So if there's a song that we need to sing for our main chunk, well, then I'm going to have my students add in the solfege, right? And going based off the colors that we use in America, which is just the rainbow. But so dough is red. I don't know if you do that as well.
Some teachers use a color-based scheme. I don't think it's really common, but it is used a little. Yeah.
So I'll have either that for my littles who are just starting to learn some solfege and only doing like sol mi do songs, right? And then for my older students, they'll be putting in either the treble clef letters, the bass clef letters, or still doing that solfege. So then having some sort of tactile, I get independent students to get up, maybe grab a quick assessment, right? So that then for my main chunk, which is going to be whatever I talked about during the scarf dance, whatever they felt during the scarf dance is what I am then making concrete in my main chunk, which is usually some sort of story or some sort of instrument play along there, things like that. But yeah, so what I like is my routine is going to have different sections where I'm going to have movement breaks so that at every single part of my lesson, I know that I'm going to be reinforcing the concepts. So say if we're talking about articulation with Flight of the Bumblebee, well, then I'm going to have a movement break somewhere in the middle that is also going to be about articulation. One of the ones that I love, it's so simple. Right? All of these are so simple. We like to keep things simple, but you're just taking two Lumi sticks, right? And you're going to be doing two different forms of tempo and seeing if your students' bodies can change with it. So say I'm giving them a beat that's very staccato. This is staccato, getting that vocabulary in, but still in a way that makes them feel what's going on. So then they're up and they're jumping, then changing it and maybe taking the Lumi six and sliding it. This is legato, and seeing my students' bodies change. Then maybe I add in the music back and say, okay, well, we did this at the beginning. Can we now listen in Rimsky-Korsakov's Flight of the Bumblebee? Where's the staccato? Where's the legato? Show me with your body. Or if my students have had that point, they might need a little break from movement and more just on thinking. All right, show me with your hands. If it's staccato, can you tap your left hand? If it's legato, can you slide your right hand up and down your left arm? Show me a smooth. Again, if at that point I'm like, all right, we need to sit down and collect for a second. But yeah, no. So having multiple musical experiences throughout it that are going to solidify whatever I'm trying to talk about. So scarf dances, movement breaks, a lot of the videos on YouTube are so wonderful as far as you can not only find rhythm patterns, but you're also going to find rhythm patterns that then go with the same songs that I'm trying to teach. So yeah, lots of movement in my class for sure, but I do find that It is a way that I can just make concrete experiences that my students can understand these abstract concepts so that when I ask them the question, well, what do we hear in this music? I'm, like, what's the dynamic of this music? I don't hear things like, oh, miss, it's really high. You're going, oh, that's not what I asked.
Mhm.
They're having concrete understandings. And because it's movement based, I find, and studies have proven this, that the more movement that's also involved in the learning, the more retention that you're going to see your students having. An experience is always going to beat a lecture.
Mm. I love that. So, in that example, the articulation. So, when you're planning these experiences, you're thinking across a lesson. And I love that idea of, oh, by the way, you've frozen. I do hope you're still there. I'll keep
I
talking for
am.
now. Oh, you're there. Hello. Uh, so you're thinking across a lesson and you'll pop this concept through a lesson if that's one
Mhm.
of your main objectives. Though I imagine you're also planning across years. So whereas you might introduce, we'll go with the flight of the bumblebee, you might do that sort of activity with the equivalent of our preps. I mean, your 4, 5-year-olds, your little ones, but you're not
Mhm.
going to spend a whole lot of time talking about articulation. You'll bring that back in years to come. So you've also got to plan like long term, not just within that one lesson. So
Yes.
I'm on the right track, aren't I, for where your
Oh,
head is?
Oh, 100%. And what's great about that is, again, something like this does not get boring. And that's what I've been able to see throughout my time at this one school. I've been lucky enough to be at a school now for the last 6 years. So my kindergartners have grown into middle schoolers before my eyes. And
Yeah.
I'm able to see that a song that they had an experience with in kindergarten, I can then come back and again challenge them in new ways, right? Maybe that's when I bring in the vocabulary, but then the ability to press play and have them hear it. I know that. And to see them now, they have a concrete experience. They might not have heard it for a year, right? Or 2 years or 3 years, but they remember it. They have that concrete experience. And now I can dive deeper. Now I can also bring in form, right? Now I can also bring in texture. Now I can take something that we simplified so much and they're able to see just how much is in each one of these songs that we've been able to look at over the course of the years.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. It also sounds a little daunting, as in there's so much. There's so much. I mean, that's just actually, I am digressing a bit, but that's okay. My listeners are used to me digressing. Um, that's music teaching, though. It's daunting. It's a massive area. I know this isn't on my list of guiding questions, but how do you approach the planning of these things? I mean, uh, is it easy to give us a little insight into your long-term and short-term planning? Because I think that's actually the art of teaching. One of the most difficult things to do is to get a handle on good planning and make sure. I mean, I've been doing it for such a long time, and I think I do it fairly well, but I still have this feeling I could do it better. There are still things I'm missing out. How can I do this more thoroughly? So, how do you attack your planning?
So, what I found, and again, we're still talking about this very young teacher who does have lots and lots of work, lots and lots of growth ahead of her, 100%. But what I do find is that if I just stay organized. I have I have had the pleasure of being able to develop my own curriculum since I started teaching once I graduated college. And for the first couple of years, I didn't write many things down and really saw that I just forgot. I
Yeah.
forgot what I did from year to year. And so the first thing that I did, Debbie, before actually learning, well, how do I want to connect all these things is just learning to keep track of them all. So every single one of my lessons I have planned for kindergarten through 8th grade now. And I have my set curriculum so that I'm able to see the intros, the experiences, and then the really developing, which is again why for my middle school, my now, let's say 12-year-olds to 14-year-olds, right? Having them have that more independent time where they know the basics of literacy. They know the treble clef, bass clef letters. They know how to read simple and complex rhythms. They know the form of a song. They know all the basics that you need. And then really seeing, okay, well, half of them are very interested in ukulele, where the other half of them really want to compose their own songs on GarageBand versus this half over here, And so, how do I get them to this state where they almost no longer need me? And I think that's the most important thing that any music teacher can do is get your students to a point where you are no longer necessary. And how do you do that? So the first thing I did is made sure that I knew everything that I had. So even if I didn't need, say, I use Google Slides presentation like PowerPoint, right? All the time. That's all I use. And even if I didn't need that slide for that day, I would still make a presentation so that I knew what I did. Even if it's just in the notes, this is what I did on this day, right? And again, just like you said, what are the main things that are going to help my students be musically literate to get them to that middle school area? So really my kindergarten and my first graders, their whole thing is just introducing music and providing them with the experiences to immediately get them singing. Because if we don't get our students singing, it becomes so stressful down the line. But if you start them off young, oh, it's so simple. It's so easy. I came to a school my first couple of years at this new school. The teacher before me didn't sing at all. And yeah, it was hard. It was very hard. And I would leave with my students saying things like, oh, that was so boring, or just being so stressed out and so terrified. And I realized what I was doing wrong. I was sitting behind a piano. I was plunking out the notes. No, 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 this is my pitch. And I'm a singer. So hearing that from my students absolutely broke my heart until you're going to see where I'm probably going with this, Debbie, but until I added movement.
I had a feeling you were going to say that next, Leanna.
Yep. So again, getting all the things so that I can lead my students to them being musically literate and interested and curious about where their own musical path is going to lead them by the time they're in middle school. And yeah, I feel like if we really wanted to go through all of my different plannings, it would take probably far too long. But that is
no, that was good. And even just the fact that you have your lessons on Google Slides and yeah, no, that was great. Thank you. That's got me thinking too. Well, that's what this whole thing is about, thinking and learning and sharing, isn't it? Before we get on to Nuggets of Fabulous, which I love, and I'm hoping that my lovely people listening love my Nuggets of Fabulous. I don't know if I'm kicking myself for making that up 133 episodes ago. Oh, no, hold on. No, by the time you're on, you'll be about 137, I think, something like that. Anyway.
A lot of nuggets, Debbie.
It's a lot of nuggets. And I thought, so I'm not sure if I'm sorry I made that up. But anyway, I'm stuck with it now. Nuggets are fabulous. Before we get on to that, could you give us a couple more examples? Like the Hall of the Mountain King and Bumblebee, they were great. So just maybe another piece and how you use it so that people can scurry away and find and do a Google on YouTube and find bits of,
Yes. 100%.
Scarf dances, rhythms, whatever.
So right now, I actually only just started making my YouTube channel. But on my YouTube channel, I just started this really. I had a couple of things on there for a couple of years, but this is my year where I'm very dedicated to how many different musical experiences, multiple musical experiences, can I put through one song? Because again, just getting one experience, it's not enough. It's not enough to talk and to have your students engage with dynamics one time, with tempo one time, with rhythm patterns one time. You need to have this be something that is part of your routine and part of your structure. And so what I love about that is So say for my St. Patrick's Day lessons, I have my two right now, St. Patrick's Day. I have a scarf dance on my YouTube channel that anyone can go and check out. And I also have some rhythm patterns that go along now with the same song that I used in my St. Patrick's Day scarf dance. So it's a very I'm an O'Brien. And I would not call this good classical Irish music. I would call it free Irish music. So
Yes.
like bear that in mind. Bear that in mind. But what I like about it is it did get my students up and moving to some Irish flutes and things like that. So that they did have a bit of experience with Irish music, but it got them up and moving to the music. And then I could take that same song. And now if you see on my YouTube channel, I also made some rhythm patterns videos about it. So a play along that you can either use with instruments or just having your students clap. And what I love about that is I made an easy version, a medium version, and a challenging version where it is those mixed rhythms. So I think we're talking about mixed eighth notes and 16th notes. So again, like having those multiple musical experiences where they can not only hear it, but then they can experience it and then they can engage with it. Right. And I did the same thing with have you ever read to your students the story Strega Nona?
No.
Strega Nona is this beautiful picture book by Tommy De Paola. He's made a ton of really great children's picture books, and this one is called Strega Nona. And Strega Nona in Italian means grandmother witch, and it's about this witch who she takes care of the town, and if they need a potion to get rid of warts, so she'll give you that. If they need a love potion, she'll give you that, and she also has a magic pasta pot where if you sing a song, bubble, bubble, pasta pot, boil me some pasta nice and hot. And it's this beautiful song that goes right in the story. It will make endless amounts of pasta until she sings a song to stop it. And a couple stumbles down the way. She has someone listening in who then tries to use her pasta pot but doesn't know the song to stop it, so the town almost gets covered in pasta. Oh, it is a fabulous story, and it also goes with that song, which then also connects with the rhythm to an Italian tarantella dance, which then you can also use with Rossini's William Tell, the overture of William Tell, the finale. You can also use it. It's such a wonderful. So what I did is, if you go on my YouTube channel, you'll not only see this walkthrough of the Strega Nona lesson that I love to do, you will see the scarf dance to the Rossini William Overtell, and you will also see I know this year has been a lot, Debbie.
Oh, goodness.
And I also made a movement break so that your students with their bodies, along with Rossini's William Tell Overture.
Overture. Yeah, we knew what you meant.
Overture.
Okay.
You can make a pizza. So with their bodies, they have to add in the pepperoni by running, pepperoni. They add in the cheese by jumping, cheese, and they add in the mushrooms by doing jumping jacks. Mushroom. Mm-hmm.
Oh, I love it.
Anybody who wants to see how a lot of my classroom runs, how my brain runs when I'm trying to add in all of these different moving experiences to really solidify, because in that one and now in this one story, I've not only got them singing for Bubble Bubble Pasta Pot, I introduced them to the Italian folk dance, the tarantella. I got them moving to not only rhythm patterns, which is also on YouTube, but also building a virtual pizza and listening to Rossini's William Tell.
Oh,
that's my brain.
Amazing. Okay, now this book, is the song written out in the book at the back of the book?
The song is just the lyrics are, but for some reason everyone seems that's on YouTube has done these same exact pitches. So I wrote out the pitches in my lesson plan, but if you go on YouTube, they have some very famous American actors, and I'm trying to think of who she is. Oh, she's so famous, and I can picture her in my head right now. But if you go on to YouTube and search Strega Nona, Stregna, Strega Nona, Nona, Strega Nona, read aloud, then this famous actress is going to come up and she reads through Strega Nona. and several other people also do, and we all use the same pitches. Bubble bubble pasta pot. So I then took that song and wrote out the pitches so that my students can also do the solfege with it.
Oh, wonderful. I'll tell you what came to mind when you were telling me that story was The Sorcerer's Apprentice.
Ooh.
When Mickey, you know from
Oh
Fantasia.
yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh yeah.
And so when the pasta's running wild, it's like the water going wild.
Exactly it.
Yeah.
Oh, that is exactly it. When and Mickey and his broom. Oh, 100%. That's exactly it.
Oh, that sounds okay. I'm dying to check this out now, so I'm sure everybody else is. There's so many ideas. I love it. There's so much to do. You're just giving me more work, but it's exciting work. So thank you, Leanna. Mm. All right, we're up to nuggets of fabulous. You've already given us some, but I'm going to ask for more because I'm greedy.
Righty. I did write a little something, and we've kind of talked about a bit of it, right? But I really want to say that a lot of times teachers are struggling because their toolbox is empty. Their teacher toolbox that keeps them excited to learn, which by watching podcasts like these and really, that gives me an idea, right? It's a spark that I feel like a lot of us are having a harder time with now, especially than previous times. But to keep our teacher toolbox full so that we're not only excited about what we're doing, but we're also keeping ourselves happy, mentally healthy, and excited about our career. And so for these teacher toolboxes, it's things that we've already, kind of talked about. We're building that routine and structure and adding in the things that spark your own curiosity and making sure that always in your toolbox is the tools that you need to prevent that day that we've all had as teachers, right? That day where my favorite teacher, Dr. Corey Gansha, I think she called it, yes, the black void, where hopefully we only all have at least, one of those every few years, because it's that day that just makes you question everything because nothing went right.
Mhm.
So what do you have in your teacher toolbox to not only keep you mentally ready to continue on with this job that only the bravest take on, but to also make sure that you're engaging and enjoying your time with your students? How are you preventing behavior and not managing it? When you start to see that spiral, what's in your teacher toolbox that will get your students back with you? I have been teaching in one school that has students with some severe behavior problems, and it's tough,
It's hard.
and it's hard, and it's so hard, so very rewarding, oh my goodness, but so incredibly challenging. So what do you have in your teacher toolbox for when that things are starting to spiral? How can you prevent it? For me, it's the hand sign sitting, right? I always have some sort of also video on my computer, on the smartboard, just somewhere where if I maybe need to take a student, not, into the hall with the door open, but into the hall to take that pause, connect what's going on, and never in front of my other students, right? Do I always have a video on so that there's something happening if I have to step to the side with another student, right? What do I have in my teacher toolbox, in my teacher arsenal, to make it so that I'm not going into that void, right? What am I doing to make sure I'm not taking work home with me? I'm making sure that my weekends are mine, which I'm finally at a point where Debbie.
No, you can tell by my face. I'm not at that point. I don't think I'm ever going to get there. But anyway, it's a nice aim.
Yes. Yes. Just thinking about what do you have to always be supporting you in this career that nobody takes unless they really love what we do. I think is the nugget of fabulous that I'm going to try to impart is just making sure that every teacher, because every teacher is different, just like every student is different, is filling their toolbox with the things that they know will work for them. Because the level of burnout that we're experiencing in this career is just astronomical.
Mhm.
And how can we take care of ourselves and see this love in this career path so that we are continually learning and moving forward?
I love it. And that is certainly fabulous. So I think it fits in the category of nuggets
I
of
get a,
fabulous.
I get a nugget.
That was a fabulous nugget. Now, how can people connect with you? So you can tell them, but like I said, people can pop into the show notes. But where do you most hang out? And you've talked about your YouTube channel. So just give us a quick summary of where people can find you.
You got it. My YouTube channel, all you got to do is search Soaring Scarves Academy, which we're called Soaring Scarves because of my scarf dances. Now, I think if I were creating this business not 4 years ago, but now it'd have something more about movement. But you know what? The name is the name. So we're sticking with it.
Mhm.
Um, the second place is I have a teachers only Facebook group that I post in all the time. It is private, so you'll just need to search Soaring Scarves Academy. We have a public group. Anybody can check that out. But then we also have a private teachers group, which is also posted on the public. So all you got to do is answer a couple questions to make sure everybody's being respectful and responsible and communicating well in positive ways. Or if it's negative, that we're all on the same boat. But yeah, so I have my private Facebook page, but I also am just reachable at info@soaringscarvesacademy.com. That's my email. And anybody can also just ask me if there's any questions that you have from this. Yeah, anybody can ask me there.
So Soaring Scarves, your business, is it are you like a solopreneur? Have you got a bit of a team? Or would you rather not answer? You can say like, no,
Oh, no.
I'm not answering that. But I'm just interested as someone who also has a, solopreneur on the side. Tell us about Soaring Scarves.
So Soaring Scarves Academy is this hub that I've made that I cannot say that I've made it by myself. I have this amazing web developer, Richard Pelzar, and my husband, I'm very, very lucky, is a videographer. So he went to college with me. And so everything that you see that somehow looks wonderfully professional and is edited beautifully, and all of that is not me. I am the creative mind, but I am in no way, shape, or form able to use all the DaVinci Resolve tools that he does and all of this, all of that. That's why even as we're sitting in my house right now, he had to go to class. We're right now in California. He got a scholarship for the Stella Adler Academy of Acting because not only did he want to be a videographer, but he also wanted to do some acting. So he had to go to class, but he made sure to set up my lighting before he left. So that's why if this looks nice, I didn't do any of it.
It sure looks
I
so
did
good.
none
And
of
look
it.
at look at me in my little dungeon. And
It's
I
only
just
because
got
it's so dark where you are, Debbie.
yeah, yeah, but also if I put the fluoro on to make, which is where I work, I've got a big fluoro up there, but it creates this flare from behind so I've had advice, don't have the fluoro on, so it looks dark. So then I have these two little lights there because I need some sort of light, but they're not official. This is like an
No.
old desk light, and yeah, you look so put together.
And I never would. Oh, Debbie, please believe me, I never would look at all put together unless it was for that man. And you know what? That's what softens the blow when I see him walk into the house and he has a new light that he's bought, and I just don't understand how one person could have need for so many lights, but he does all my stuff, so I can never complain.
Oh yeah, no, don't
same,
complain, honey.
same with the
Go
cameras.
buy another light if you need it. Go. It's a bit
You don't
like
want to know. You don't want to know how many cameras and mics this man has. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. But yes, so I'm definitely not solo by any means. I am very lucky where my website developer could develop all that I have because there's no way I could develop what he was able to create. There's no shot. which is where I host everything. My website is a monthly membership that my teachers then have access to my entire curriculum that I've developed, K through eighth grade. I'm very, very proud of it. But not only that, I've done professional development now with I have over 20 hours of pre-recorded professional development that again only looks great because of Javon. That is also on there. We have pre-recorded movement breaks. So the movement breaks that I talked about now, but also the singing, hand clapping games, all the different movement activities that I bring into the class, different steady beat activities, singing activities, large groups and small groups and things like that. I have videos on all of those. And just in the last years, I was also to make assessments that move, because what I found is every time I tried to gather data on my students, it would stop the learning. And I was so sick of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's tough. It's really, really hard because you need data. You need effective data to show what you see, right? So how could I do that without stopping my students' learning? So I did a deep dive on that for the last couple of years, and all my assessments are on my membership as well. So
Mhm.
that was the scarf dances, the curriculum, the professional development, the assessments, and oh, and a 5 week challenge for people who are just trying to get started and bringing more movement into the classroom, which is just instead of watching 20 plus hours of professional development, I've given the nuggets of fabulous. So that you know how I do it in my classroom. And again, still definitely growing, but that is my not so solar entrepreneurism right here.
Oh no, that's great. Yes, but you're the music education brain brains of the operation. But do you know what? When you talked about assessment, I think the biggest mistake that I have seen, I shouldn't say mistake. Uh, what I perceive,
Opportunity for learning.
yes, the biggest opportunity for learning that I have seen with educators that I have worked with is that the exactly as you said, the learning stops, the activities stop, and they plonk an assessment that has nothing to do with what they've been doing. Like I'm doing, so they might do a rhythmic dictation, a melodic dictation on the staff, and something or other else, and the kids are going, I've never written a rhythm and you're asking me to write a rhythm. Or, okay, your assessment is to play this piece on the xylophone. The xylophones have never come out. We can sing it in solfa and we could probably work it out on the xylophone, but we've never done that. Your assessments have to reflect the
What you're
way whatever they are learning. So it makes sense. And yes, assessing through movement is a little tricky, but
Mhm.
of course it's possible. And if that's the way you teach, it's got to be part of your assessment, surely.
Well, one of my favorite ones, this is so magical. It feels so magical, Debbie. But what I do is in the wintertime, we're always, we have so many different lessons that have songs about snow and things like that. And what I've done is for an easy movement activity. My students listen to Tchaikovsky all throughout the winter, and they move to Tchaikovsky and they do this and just with Tchaikovsky. So I put some Tchaikovsky on in the background, some Nutcracker, and I take out these snowballs, and they're just printed little snowballs that all have, depending on the age group, maybe they're simpleton TT rhythms, maybe they're more complex counting rhythms, whatever I'm doing if I want to get rhythm assessments. And I cut out my snowballs and I stand in the middle of my room. Now, I'm very lucky. I'm able to have my students spread out very far. So there's plenty of room to move, which if I'm a teacher that moves as much as I do, that has to be a
That's good.
priority. Right. When I was on a cart, I did this in the gymnasium because I still wanted to do it. And I was very good friends with the gym teacher. So that was nice. But what I did is I cut out all of these snowballs. I sit in the middle of my students and I took these snowballs and I throw them in the air. And while Tchaikovsky's on in the background, my students all have to, and there's many expectations to make sure that this is done in a safe and an
Yeah,
appropriate
yeah.
way. And my students are very much so used to that. But they all can grab two snowballs, and they can't be the same two snowballs, but then they have to take those, write their name at the top, And they have to do
Oh, yeah, I
they have
hear
to do this. Oh my goodness. But they have to write it out before I pause the Tchaikovsky song. It is so simple. It is so fun. And by the end of it, I have so much data because we don't just do this once. We can do this as many times as we want. And by the end of it, I have so much data to show this student understands these rhythms, and being able to I just tape it on a piece of paper so that I can keep it all in one place, right?
you.
But it's so easy. It's so fun. The learning continues. And so does my students talk about it for weeks and weeks after. Miss, do you remember when we had a snowball fight? Yes, I do.
Yeah. Fabulous idea. I love it. I love it. All right. I want to talk advocacy because that's one of my passions. I spend a lot of my time and energy fighting for the existence of our profession. So, what advice would you have for us around uh, selling the importance of what we do? Like we know, how do we tell others?
So, and I love that you bring this up because it just has to be talked about. That's like the first thing. Our profession has been stuck in time for years. We have not grown. We have not, if anything, it's gone backwards. And that's a big part of it is it's not being talked about and not being talked about in these that enact change. I just posted a YouTube video on the 5 questions that I feel like every teacher needs to ask when they start to be given those extra loads of work that just don't fit in their schedule, and yet they are expected to volunteer their time in order to do it. So my biggest thing is check out those 5 questions, but also assemble the troops, right? Find the people who already see how we matter, why we matter. People like you, Debbie, right? Assemble the troops. Find the ones that already agree with you. There are those parents that we all have that are just so engaged with you. They see your worth. They see your value. You know the members of the PTA that are with you. You know the members of your school board that are with you. Assemble them, right? Gather your data. The more data that we have to show not only the impact we're having in our classrooms to show that we're turning out musicians, but also the countless amounts of data that show why being a musician is so important. Why the kid that doesn't want to be in any other classroom but somehow wants to be in ours might not leave school sad and feeling dejected because they had our class, right? Assemble the troops, gather the data that shows just how valuable we are as a profession, and then advocate for our own worth. And a lot of times that's the smaller steps in our school that just when you're being given the role as a substitute teacher, as a glorified substitute teacher, advocating your own worth. I had this one school system that I still grew so much through, and I am very grateful that I had it. But we were 2 music teachers in the building, and one was going on maternity leave. And they told me for months and months and months that they were going to get a sub to replace her. And then months and months went by and they didn't. They didn't even post the job. But then the week before she went on maternity leave, I was supposed to cover. It had never once been discussed. And then when I asked, okay, well, what's my compensation for taking on this whole other role that I can barely fit in? I was looked at as if I was greedy. I was looked at as if I wasn't a team player, as if I didn't care about my students. I had to, for the year following, by assembling my troops, because I found the people who immediately, the second I said this, they went, that's unacceptable. And I was able to find those people and assemble those troops so that it never happened to anybody again. And I was compensated after the fact. I still took on the teaching, but I was compensated afterwards for that work. And it was put in place in my school where that wouldn't happen again.
Whoever follows still has to make sure it doesn't happen again because things can slide.
Yes.
But it's hard. It's hard finding that line of being assertive, but not obnoxious.
Yes.
And
I find No, no, because I know exactly, because like, it also makes you question, well, am I just not being a team player? This expectation, what am I doing wrong? And that's where I go to viewing this. Teachers do this because we're passionate, because we care about the students. And that's what makes it now this part in our brain where I feel like we have to also, yes, see yourself as the teacher, see yourself as that student's champion, right? Rita Pearson, but also see yourself as an employee. And that's a lot of times I feel like the disconnect that all of us have is, well, don't you do this because you love it? And the answer there is yes. But would anybody who's just going to a 9 to 5 office, would they be expected to buy their own supplies to do their job correctly? Right? Would they be expected to stay hours and hours after their scheduled time and not see any compensation? Would they be expected to take on weekends, to take on whole groups of after school activities with no compensation? And that's where I feel like I have to make that question is, am I being treated like a volunteer or like an employee, a volunteer who's very good and very passionate, or an employee that is doing a great job? And it is a fine line to tread. But I feel like that is where a lot of us make it almost a little more challenging to advocate if we're then looked at like we're greedy.
Mm-hmm. And it's so easy to do in our job. One of the classics that in our situation is to do with playground duty. So there might be X amount of, that's what we call it here, when you supervise
Mhm.
lunch breaks or after school or bus duty, whatever. So those playground duties. And so the music teacher may be given the same amount, and that's okay. We've got the same. However, we're also doing 2 choirs before school. We're going through lunchtime with ukulele club. We're doing blah, 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 blah. And a good school will look at that and go, oh, good heavens, look at all of those extra duties you're doing in a voluntary capacity. It's like it's sort of part of our job, but it's not part of our job. Like it's not in the job description.
It's a gray area.
Yeah. So a good administration will say, you don't have playground duty. You are doing more than your share. And you also don't have to plan for playground duty. You do have to plan to take choir, all the work that goes with it. So, but the number of times I've heard the administrators will say, well, you don't have to do choir. You go, oh, I love choir. And those children
Not
need,
even the heart.
and how can you do that? So then you go, okay, I'll have choir and playground duty. Okay. And so
Yep.
we're our own worst enemies.
Yes. Yes. 100%. 100%. But that's why I feel like we do have to tell the younger generation, advocate for that no playground duty. At the end of the day, if you're prepping for choir, are we really prepping for choir during our weekends and during our after school time? Or is there our prep period where we can plan for this massive undertaking? The fact that we do these crazy complex concerts that are just totally, and they're not in the job description, but everybody knows that there has to be a concert. Of course, only we do what we do. Music educators are a breed all unto our own. And because of that, I feel like that is where the advocacy has to come in. And the data has to come in, and the assembling the troops has to come in to show, this is what I'm doing. This is the impact I am having. I need you to help me get there. And teamwork's so important, but you'd never look at the one team member who's running laps around everybody else and go, yeah, but can you do 3 more?
Great analogy. I love it. And then, of course, the next question is, how do we get that message out? But assembling the troops is step one. I love that. And gathering the data. And like you said, the well-being data and all of those other things that happen. We do so much. And there are things that you can do on a bigger platform, I think, to start making noise. Let's make noise, assemble the troops. I love it. I've so enjoyed this, Leanna. This has been a great chat. But before we finish, you get to get on your soapbox. Not that we both haven't been on it for the whole time anyway, but let's go a step higher and tell us from your soapbox what you would like the world to know.
I would really love if whoever's listening to this is leaving knowing their worth, knowing their value, knowing that as educators, only people who are truly brave go into this profession, right? Only true. It is not for the free summers. It is not so that, oh, well, you spend your day singing with kids. That is such a small part of what we do. No, what we do is we instill curiosity into our students. We let them see a whole new, bigger world. We are students' champions. If you haven't seen that TED Talk by Rita Pierson, every time that I start questioning why I am teaching, I listen to her talk about it, and it is incredible. It's right on YouTube. It is fantastic, right? I want to remind all educators that we can keep learning and we can keep growing and we can keep doing that while also prioritizing staying who we are as individuals, loving the things outside of school to make sure that we're loving our time spent in school, right? I want no one to feel like they are stuck in time, even if this profession sometimes feels like it is. And that the generations coming after us are going to have not only us as teachers, but hopefully us to look up to as ones to keep on pushing this profession forward, because there will never be a time when teachers are not 100% necessary, even if, depending especially on where you are in the world right now, if there is just so many evidence to say that there are so many people who don't see us like that. We know we are. So yeah, I'd say for everybody out there, keep learning, keep growing, keep yourself and the things that you need as a top priority, because unless we are taking care of our own selves, there is nothing we can do for our students.
I love that. That is a perfect note. Sorry, to finish on. And it has been a delight to have you in as a guest on the podcast, Leanna, and I will keep in touch.
Thank you so much, Debbie.
As we know, laughter relieves stress. Don't lose sight of the funny side of life. What kind of music do mummies listen to? Oh, I'm sure you all know this one. Rap music. Thank you so much for watching our Crescendo Music Education podcast. For more information about all things Crescendo, including membership and music education resources, visit us at crescendo.com.au. Don't forget to like and subscribe.